But now we need to get back to reality and talk about what's going on in America in terms of this economy. We talked about the last show that the stimulus had a 1-year anniversary. And we have all these people complaining about the stimulus and how it didn't work. Well, the Congressional Budgetary Office made a report. And they're supposed to be independent, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll let you tell them what they said.
Well, they confirmed what President Obama said during his State of the Union address, that the stimulus bill did work, that it did save a considerable amount of jobs, especially, during this last quarter of 2009. I think it was 5% or between 5% or 1%. 0.5% or 1% of the jobs that would have been lost if they hadn't had the stimulus bill were retained. And it actually has done what President Obama said. Initially he said it was supposed to save between, I think it was 900,000 and 1.5 million jobs. And it did. So basically it's been successful, and the criticisms are unfounded.
And the thing is, it's important about this is that one of the things that we don't have a lot in Congress is patience, right? Okay, so we talked about last week that when we're dealing with the stimulus and creating these jobs, that we just couldn't go out and create jobs, that there were certain things, provisions within the law that requires studies to be done so that people will be paid the right amount of money, because the government cannot offer you a job that would would compete with another person, unfairly compete with another person. So we understand, and this is facts, that it took 7 months for them to do a study to figure out this information. And so now we see the after effects of the stimulus, which if we weren't acting like children, we would realize that it would have took some time. It didn't take us, 1 year to get all screwed up. It took us several years, to get where we're at with what the banks were doing. It took years where the Congress had to, through regression of laws and regulations and stuff, that allowed these banks and these insurance companies to do the things they did that caused part of the problem that existed within the United States. And so we have to give some kudos to President Obama, yes, because I'm not one of the people that drink the Obama aid, but when he does something right, I will agree with him. And I don't think that the press really has gone out and really push this information out there to the public so they understand that.
Well, I think the media as well as the right are relying on the fact that there's so much disenchantment with the fact that a lot of people are still unemployed and that the unemployment rate is so high that they can kind of skim over the fact that this has been a successful, endeavor. And as the president has mentioned many times, he's aware that there's much more to do, and he's continuing to try and have advancements in that area with the jobs bill. But I mean, it's ludicrous that we can't give credit where credit's due, because one of the main things that we need to be looking at is that when something is successful, especially in the political arena, right, we're going to have to duplicate it or continue it or do whatever we need to in order to move in a positive direction. So it shouldn't be something that's swept under the rug for political difference reasons, that you don't want the Democrats to have their due, or you don't want the president to look better so that, next election you have more of a ammunition. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's more of the issue is that we need to do what's right for America.
Is it about getting political gain or putting people back to work? Is that the question? And so the next big idea or the next big thing is jobs, right? We just talked about the stimulus did work. People are going back to work, but there's still a lot of work to do. President Obama has recognized through the outcry of enough people, especially this show, that we need people back to work, especially within our communities. And so now there's this whole idea, this jobs bill. And I want to talk a little about this whole idea behind the jobs bill. Was it Schumer and I forgot the other guy's name that co-sponsored the particular bill. But what they're trying to do is they want to use this idea of tax breaks, okay? They want to give tax breaks to these people that are hired back into the economy. You have to think it's like you can't have worked 60 days before you get a tax break. They bringing somebody new into your organization. But part of the criticism of it is that if they stay for a year, at the end of the year you get a $1,000 tax break. Part of the argument is that there is a consistent turnover within the economy of jobs. People are consistently changing jobs. So how do you know it's dealing with people who are actually long-term unemployed that you hiring and they're getting this benefit versus people who continually churn over jobs. They say there's an estimated 4 million jobs that get changed over I think every month or something like that. I'm not sure if it can be every month, but whatever cycle or whatever. So how do you know, based on what they're trying to write within this bill, that we're really targeting those people that are dealing with underemployment or long-term unemployment?
Well, that's easy enough to trace. I mean, with Social Security numbers, et cetera. I mean, you know who's out of work and who's working. So somebody switching from one job to another would not be impacted, should not impact this as much as somebody who's newly hired who's been out of work. So there are ways to gauge this. And the jobs bill, in addition to decreasing or eliminating payroll taxes
right.
for the employers for the rest of the year, the other aspects of the bill where you're actually trying to make it easier for some of these small businesses to be successful enough to hire people. For instance, giving them the full depreciation of capital expenditures during 2010, when normally it's something that has to be amortized over an extended period of time.
That was legalese. Otherwise, if I buy a truck, it depreciates, and I can deduct that depreciation off of my taxes.
Yes, and normally you'd have to do that. You have to excuse the accountant in me.
Okay.
but normally you would have to do that over a period of several years.
Right,
but
exactly.
since they're trying to give the immediate effect to businesses and individuals, they're trying to do it so that you get some of these benefits right away.